Welcome to Rumings. Every week, we take mini dives into topics and explore it on what it is, what it can be, and what it should be. We are a coach, a psychologist, and an expressive arts practitioner, and we just want to be a part of the conversation. Join us every Sunday if you'd like to ruminate or muse with us. Join us on Rumings.
Hello everyone, welcome to Rumings. For the last episode of the month of Feb, we thought of doing something different. We decided we could talk about certain things which are just uniquely feminine, the humorous, the weird, the ones that, as the feminine kind, we need no explanation about we doing it. But I think when you hear it from a man's mouth, or when you hear it from somebody else observing, you just realize how weirdly unique it is to us. So to start with, I think the one I want to propose to you girls is, how often have you tried on a new dress, stood front of a mirror, tilted your head and then decided if the dress works or doesn't work?
Oh my god, this is so true. I have never in my whole life come to a decision without tilting my head. Not only for my own wardrobe, but for whoever I've gone shopping with. It's always been approved after a tilt of the head. Otherwise, it's just a no go.
I think I tilt my head for all sorts of decisions, not just the shopping ones. Any kind of decision that has to be made, I am immediately tilting my head to either the right or the left. That is when everyone knows, okay, she's made her decision. So this is so true. So true.
I really wonder what is it about the tilt, the angle, without which we can't make decisions. They are really important decisions. If you don't tilt your head, you're going to regret the decision. At least I think so. What about you?
Imagine if we were to imagine passing bills and legislations with a tilt of your head. Just imagine that, ladies.
That would be awesome because then you would not go wrong. You would genuinely bang on, be right? Because it's just that angle. And then also I realized with the tilt comes like, oh yeah. Or the tone also of the way you say your exact responses has so much more conviction in it.
That this is solely an Indian thing.
You are tilting again.
I don't know actually. I have seen it happen in movies though. Like in Hollywood movies, they do sometimes do this. I don't know, maybe our listeners can tell us what it is because I have seen enough women abroad also do that. Just how we function.
You can also maybe ask the men if they've ever tilted their head, because now that I think of it, I really don't know any man who tilts their head when they take a decision. I mean, their decision making skills are probably so different as compared to ours.
I actually want to ask the men, all the men who sit with all their bags in the corner in the mall where the sofas are made just for them, and they sometimes are asked to give their opinion about clothes. What do they feel when they see everybody just tilt? What's going on in their minds? What do they think about us at that time? I guess, now that we're talking about tilting and everything, but from tilting, I don't know why, but my very next thought goes to the sheer exercise that we women do when we have to go to a public loo. I mean, how many squat, how many don't? That could be an interesting poll for our listeners too, right? And God forbid, if you're wearing Indian wear and you don't have anybody with you to hold your purse and dupatta, what happens then?
I remember when we were traveling somewhere and oh my god, those loos on the highway when you're traveling, you're so skeptical when you enter. All of us with one finger will try and open the door to just see, okay, is it clean enough that I can just go in and maybe squat and not touch anything and just do my business and come out? Yeah, I can see both your expressions.
I feel we should have different kinds of bravery awards for venturing into different kinds of loos. What do you think? But I also feel this is a very Indian thing considering how famous we are for our loos. I remember that there was a joke my dad often cracks is if you can't see a loo, smell one in India. Yeah, that's how it is. And given the nature of it and having grown up in this, I think, yeah, squatting is the thing and it's such a ordeal. And I remember again another joke comes by when we were chatting with a group of friends, and my friend's mom says to her husband, my friend's dad, that you guys really don't have to worry about anything. You guys just have to stand. It's us who have to take all the trouble of the dupattas, the purses, along with the salwars and the nadas that come with it. Oh my god, nadas aren't to be messed with. I think we need to move on to another imagery here. Desperately, again a pun intended.
Yeah, come on. Okay, no, I know it's been 2 months and both you and Simon haven't really managed to crack your lame jokes, but this was not a good pun.
I think that was fantastic, Ava. I don't think you're really a punny person.
I don't know about everyone, again, it's not a generalization, but I've seen this a lot that men will help out in the house doing all sorts of things, but they just don't dry the clothes. The damp ones which need to be aired, they just don't do that. And somewhere I've noticed and realized that this comes from a slight awkwardness of hanging the women's undergarments. Somewhere it is related to that they are ready to do choice of tossing the coin. I'm sure they're going to be willing to do the dishes and swipe the floors and even mop it, but as far as drying the clothes, oh no, oh no. It's always a woman's business, and somehow I've seen this. So, any similar observations, ladies?
This is so true, because I think men are generally very uncomfortable around bras and panties, and like even saying these words. I don't know. I mean, it's really funny to see the look on their face if you ask them to go and dry their clothes. So I completely get that, and it's hilarious, and I enjoy doing it. And if I'm ever staying with some friends, I sometimes purposely ask a couple of guys if they can help me with it, and it's amazing to see the reactions where so many of them say, no, you know what, I'll probably go do the dishes, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. But so many of them get so awkward when it comes to this. So I completely agree with you here, Ava. I think we have a long way to go in that department, in saying these words out loud and in using these words in our regular day-to-day conversation. So yeah, I think we can start with maybe them helping us drying our clothes and our undergarments, and maybe pick it up from there. Another thing that I feel I hear a lot is that women can't drive. Sometimes we're sitting in a car, or we're probably just going somewhere, and they probably see a lady driver drive, and then the first thing that everyone will say is, "Arey yaar, she can't drive. Be careful, keep distance, okay? She's a lady driver," or something like that. And I don't know if it's funny or it's annoying, because a lot of the times I just get so annoyed when I hear that women can't drive, because I know so many women who are amazing drivers, and I don't see what gender has to do with driving, really.
I mean, as a driver, my women driver myself, I cannot empathize with this more. There's one thing strangely that happens with all women drivers. You suddenly have, if you're reversing from a parking or trying to park the car, there are 4 men who will tell you how to park. So the other day there was a function happening in my building. I am reversing my car from my parking spot, which I have used for the time I started driving, so that's easily 10 plus years now. But 3 men who are complete strangers decided that I cannot reverse the car from a spot that technically that's the first spot I learned how to park the car, right? Or I used to go to my first workplace, which meant my morning commute was a good half an hour, right? And it was across the city. I cannot tell you the number of times a man has gotten offended that I overtook his car, or I was maintaining a certain speed. And there are so many times that I've had actually to have slowed my car down, cut down on my speed, and increased my traveling time just so that he doesn't hurt my car, or I don't have to go talk to him. At the same time, those men, the minute I would have made one mistake, I would have easily gone into the thing like, Pata nahi, shayad that man was right, because she clearly doesn't seem to be a good driver, right? So I think it's a more stereotype, but I wonder if that, holds true even for bikes, like women can't ride. Especially we live in a city where most of us choose two-wheeler as a mode of transport, and I think it's this version of mansplaining that we get into that, right? I mean, I know we decided we're talking about uniquely feminine, but you can't say certain things which are uniquely feminine without having to consider the other side of the story, I guess.
I have another funny one. It's more like a stereotype that all women are neat, clean, tidy. They are not. Believe me, they are not. This is one stereotype I actually want to talk for. That it's generally an understood thing that they maintain things and they clean things and they it's perfect, orderly and super clean, but it is not. I've had men tell me saying that you have no idea how filthy women are, and I have also seen some of those places, and so that's something even I have seen, and I find it very funny how it's perceived and how it's taken.
Though I think I wonder when, this happens, that how many messy men know exactly where their things are, and how many messy women know exactly where their things are in the mess. Like, that's what I think about, because I know so many messy women. Yes, you're absolutely right. Clothes are everywhere, bed's not made, books are somewhere, like the study table does not have anything that is required that is associated to work, but the dining table is filled with stuff that isn't. But the funniest thing I've realized is, in that mess, how does she know exactly where what is kept? Like, how does she remember it?
This is so true, because when Namita, when you were talking, I was actually picturing my cupboard, and I was thinking about the last time I probably organized it. And it's so true that although my cupboard is so messy, I mean, everything is all jumbled up, but I know exactly where that pair of shorts is, or I know exactly where that pair of socks are. And I don't know how. And sometimes I remember before marriage, in fact, when my mom sometimes would like make me clear my cupboard, and I was a 16-17-year-old girl who hated to do that, but I would. And I remember keeping it so neat and clean, but then I couldn't find anything. Sometimes I feel that my mess is more organized than me being clean, like I know what goes where in that mess, but when I clean it up and I keep it organized, I am completely confused. And this is only my cupboard. Like, everything else, I like neat and tidy, but my cupboard somehow is like Monica's that one closet, which is which she's allowed to keep that way. I think that is my cupboard for me.
Yeah, no, Simone, I mean, I completely agree, right? Like, I don't get it how we figure it out. Like, how is there so much of memory when it comes to these messes, where I think we've all horrified our mothers at some point or the other and when they walk in and see our messes. But talking about something messy instead, the word PMS. I'm genuinely curious about what you guys think, because I see it two ways. One, the word is enough for another woman or anyone who identifies as feminine to understand what you're going through, right? It encapsulates so much in just those three initials, right? When you say to a man, it's literally understood in such a different way. Either it sounds like an excuse, or it sounds like, oh, your time of the month, I need to be careful around you and all of that, right? I don't know, do you guys hear it the same way as I do, or is it just my opinion?
Yeah, so this I think is a post from the Indian Feminist, and it says on periods, let's put this shit to bed right now. Women don't lose their minds when they have period related irritability. It doesn't lower their ability to reason. It lowers their patience and hence tolerance for bullshit. If an issue comes up a lot during that time of the month, that doesn't mean she only cares about it once a month. It means she's bothered by it all the time and lacks the capacity once a month to shove it down and bury it beneath 6 gulps of willful silence. And it's written so well, and whoever's written this, hats off, because I think it speaks a lot about, it relates to a lot of us, and it's exactly how we feel. So yeah, I think this post is exactly my views on PMS.
Simon, I agree with you, but I do stand guilty in some aspect because I remember actually saying this out loud to an internet provider who wasn't giving me the service that the company had promised, and I had compared the company's internet service to my menstrual cycle when I said that their inability to provide a perfectly working internet service was as predictable as my periods and everything that came along with it. And I actually wrote it as a hate mail eventually and compared it, and I hope they got my joke and the sarcasm behind it. And I do stand guilty of saying that. And I wasn't in the time of my month when I wrote that, to have it on record.
I don't blame you at all because I know how frustrating internet providers can be. In fact, we can actually make a separate podcast, I think, talking about all our experiences with internet providers because I remember Namita also writing a huge mail once to them. Abha.
I think what both of you shared is something that I agree with when I asked my question too, because as women, Abha, we clearly know that you were not in the time of your month when you wrote it, because a woman didn't need to know this. We would have just understood it without you telling us, because some things are seriously irritating, and you're exasperated most of the times and you just say it, right? But I'm sure the person who read your mail would have been like, she must be on the time of a month, right? So, and I agree with you, Simone, as well, that it's a complex issue and maybe we should probably do a podcast episode just on this if the audience requests it. But I like how interesting it is that a woman knows when the other one's PMSing and they don't really need any explanation other than like a shrug or like a look or the 3 letters. But a man simply is looking at you if you have, okay, you've gone cuckoo for a week and I'm going to stay away.
But I don't blame them because sometimes it does backfire on those poor souls. We all know that happens. So I get when they would want to maintain the distance or say, you know what, I'll come back and see you in a week if that's okay with you.
I think as women, we all share so many things, right? Like whether you know a woman, whether she's a stranger, whether she's a friend, whether she's a family member. I'm sure all of us and our listeners as well have had those moments where when you sit together, all the women, there are certain stories or there are certain anecdotes or there are certain, I don't know, there are certain moments where everyone feels like they can understand or everyone feels like they've experienced that as well. And I think that's what kind of holds us together as women. So some things, yes, are extremely funny. And today we, I think, deliberately chose the slightly funnier, less serious issues to talk about that bring us together as women. There are certain serious ones as well, which we are definitely going to talk about. But we all hope that, all 3 of us hope that you loved today's slightly different podcast. And we would love to hear what you all have to say on Instagram. On our page, Happy Rumings. Please let us know if there are any other funny stories or any other funny experiences that you all have had as women or that we all share as women. And we'd love to share that with our listeners as well. Once again, thank you so much for joining in. We'll see you next Sunday. Happy Rumings.